evening. Today is Monday, March 27th, and this is the Hendrick Hudson Board of Education meeting. I will start by noticing that we have Trustee Corey Notrika on a virtual line tonight. He couldn't be here, so we've noticed that he is at a remote location and he's with us virtual. Let's begin with the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, can I have a motion to approve the agenda this evening?
Second, make a motion to open the meeting.
Oh, I forgot we didn't come out of that. Can I have a motion to open the meeting, please? Can I have a second? All in favor? Okay, now I need a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Got Corey on all of those. All right, so we're going to begin this evening with our audience comments. Tonight it is non-agenda and agenda. Our agenda is small. We want everyone to get a chance to speak before it gets late or further into the meeting. So we'll begin with our audience comments. For those of you that haven't been here before, we allot 15 minutes for public comments. Each speaker has 3 minutes to speak. Please come up to the podium when Carmen calls your name, and remember to let us know who you are and be respectful of one another, please. So let's begin.
I'd like to make a motion to bypass the 15-minute limit.
Okay, all in favor? Okay. So what we're doing is allowing more speakers than 5 times 3 is 15. So let's begin with our first speaker, Carmen.
Can I just ask one question beforehand? I was hoping I could make a statement before audience comments. I thought that was the agreement, that we make statements before audience comments.
I asked the question. I never hear the answer.
I guess it doesn't much matter. You can, or we can let the audience go first. It doesn't, either way.
Yeah, I was hoping to do it before the audience comments, if that's okay.
Is that all right?
Sure, that's fine.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. We all good?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. You can hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, great. I apologize to the community for not being able to attend tonight in person. Unfortunately, I had a business trip that was scheduled well before this meeting was planned. I would like to start my statement with some formal requests for updated data. First, I would like to see an updated version of the plan's A and B analysis with accurate costs we discussed at the last meeting, those that were omitted but should have been included, and the update from tonight with equity costs that may require additional staffing based on the new districting. Secondly, I'm requesting to have this statement translated into Spanish, Russian, and Mandarin, posted online in an ADA compliant version, and submitted into public record as part of this meeting. I would like to objectively provide the pros analysis of each model as they were presented to us. I am intentionally excluding cons as they can be implied. I am removing current transportation from this analysis. We've been assured that current ride times will not exceed 35 minutes for any student in the model as it stands today. This is a ride time that is a maximum ride time consistent with the historical student ride times in the district and not detrimental in any way to the student learning experience. This ride time, as I understand it, is significantly less for a large majority of students. My understanding is also that the 2 new buses are being proposed to reduce ride times to a 25-minute maximum, again, with no impact on the student learning experience. This is an accommodation that only affects community members with children in schools who have ride times over this new 25-minute threshold. I'm also removing any additional cost savings to the district from this statement that may be reflected in the final budget that are not impacted by the existing grade banding elementary model. Any final savings in the budget would have been more per the model analysis if we remained in the existing model and are independent of grade banding. Pros for the proposed K-2 schools model. One less transition, reduced ride time for K-2 to be specified at a later time. Families with multiple children will have fewer pickups and drop-offs, and compromise. Pros for the existing model. Reduce costs at approximately 1% of tax levy compounded over future years as presented in the analysis given to us. Optimized balance of diversity, equity, equality, and inclusion for the future. Ability to manage district-wide swings in enrollment more easily. More cost-effective, accessible, and comprehensive special education program. Existing experience with the current model as a basis for improvement. Teacher and faculty support and recommendation. Less cost to implement or expand additional programs like second language starting in K. I would also like to define transition as it has been discussed. In most research provided to this board, transition is usually defined as focused on students moving to a new district or out of district, like mobile military families. This is a much more stressful and impactful transition, and why at-risk students who may be forced to move to a new district due to homelessness or other reasons are allowed to continue in their current district. A transition with over 100 of your cohort within the same community, managed by a caring and nurturing faculty, staff, and administration, is a very different experience than those in the research that are classified as impacting learning. I do not mean to minimize this type of transition. It is stressful for students, families, and teachers, but much different from those referenced in the studies. The board has also not researched the impact of reduced diversity, equity, equality, and inclusion on the learning experience as a synergy to the transition risk. For me, sitting on this board is not about only making people happy. It is about what is doing right for the students and the community on the whole. We, as trustees, by definition, are trusted to make decisions on behalf of those to whom we have a fiduciary duty, the students and the community. We trustees are privy to more information than the general public, and many times have to make decisions that appear on the face irrational, since we legally cannot explain them in detail. I, as a trustee, will not use the reasoning that I just want to put this behind us. I'm not using the reasoning that I am voting for compromise. I am voting for what I think is right, equitable, fair, and fiscally responsible long-term decision for the students and the community. There is no popular right answer in this situation. I believe every member on this board has a good heart and is doing what they think is best. I like to think we will remain friends after all this is said and done. This board loves our students and our community. That's why the members ran for their positions. The community attacks I have read upon my fellow board members, former board members, and their families make me sick to my stomach. I honestly believe in this community, and that it will heal. It will take at least 3 years to begin as the students cycle through the final model, whatever that may be, assuming a new board won't make a change again. The model which is finally voted upon into policy or left alone as existing policy will be the one this community will rally behind and support to make it as successful as possible for the sake of our students and our community. I truly believe that. Voting down a budget or proposition only hurts the students and home values. A down vote will not change the final model. This community will heal if we stick to the principles I saw promoted in the board election campaigns. These principles are also the pillars of our strategic plan. This healing will happen, but not quickly. On a personal note, I know that there was a lot to learn from the last implementation, and I am doing what I can to right my ship. I worry for the students and this community that this process has not leveraged those learnings and is moving at an exponentially faster pace. I worry that this decision impacts our finances at a time where the loss in revenue will compound over the next 10 years and reduce our ability to soften the plan's significant change in future tax burden. I worry that any district savings that we would have already realized through Dr. Laura's excellent work in cost optimization while maintaining existing programs will be partially negated by increasing costs. I worry this proposed model will have minimal differential academic or logistic benefits and no impact on the student learning experience. I worry the new model will require constant redistricting and significant future capital expenditures to reconfigure schools. I worry that we are quite literally dividing the community again. I worry that we as a board have not comprehensively and actively included and engaged the most marginalized members of this community, including those whose primary language is not English, those who are classified as economically disadvantaged, those who differ in background, race, religion, gender affinity, sexual orientation, country of origin, and heritage, those who differ in academic ability, those who do not have students in our program, and from those whom this board does not have regular exposure. I speak for myself when I say with honesty and empathy, I see you all. I worry for this district. With all this worry, I have faith we will come together to make the future successful, regardless of the final policy vote. I sincerely appreciate your hearing me out and your time. I ask that direct rebuttal to or discussion regarding any of this statement be held and postponed until I can meet again in person at our public board meetings. I would like to respond face-to-face with all of you whom I respect and appreciate. Your dedicated board trustee, Corey Notrika, 25-year resident of the Hendrick Hudson School District, parent of 3 amazingly successful graduates of Frank G. Lindsay Elementary School, Furnace Woods Elementary School, Blue Mountain Middle School, and soon to be Hendrick Hudson High School, each of whom have had the privilege of going through our entire K-12 program with our outstanding, dedicated, and caring teachers, staff, counselors, special educators, artists and musicians, sports program leaders, custodians and transportation staff, maintenance staff, medical staff, security, aides, assistants, attendance staff, school resource officers, administrators, substitutes, and many others. Thank you for your time.
Okay, but I'm confused because we had a work session and we all made statements. And the public had to wait until 11 o'clock to speak. And then we had a board meeting and we all made statements and the public had to wait till 11 o'clock to speak. So, I mean, I don't know. I didn't know that we were supposed to prepare statements and all read them. I didn't know that. I mean, I didn't get that memo. I mean,
Stephanie, I sent a message to everybody saying I was going to make a statement and I wanted to make a statement.
And I said that
No,
I
there's no surprise here.
Actually, there is, Corey, because I said that I did not feel comfortable with you reading a statement when that's not what this meeting was about. And I also stated that I definitely didn't feel comfortable unless we were all doing it. So I never heard anything back, Corey. So if that's what we were doing, I would have liked to know, because I don't like being surprised, and now I feel unprepared that we all should have statements to read. And I don't think everyone here wants to wait for us to all make statements.
We want to speak.
Exactly. So I'm just saying, Corey, although you made a nice lengthy statement and your opinion has now been heard loud and clear, I do feel that it didn't belong, and that's just my opinion.
Noted, noted.
Okay, let's move on to the audience and give them their time to speak.
Hi, my name is Penny Hine, and I have been a teacher for 37 years, and the last 29 of them have been here in the Hendrick Hudson School District. I am a resident and a taxpayer, and the parent of 2 Hendrick Hudson graduates. I might not have any biological children currently in the elementary school, but I have 400 children that I consider mine every day. Their best interest is all that matters to me. As a community member and a taxpayer, I have not received any communication through email, mail, or texts asking for my input in this decision. As an employee, I have not been asked for my input on this decision either. We need to work together with all stakeholders to make a final decision. We need to look at the data and see how the students are doing and thriving. We need to reach out to all members of the community by mail, email, and letters sent home in multiple languages and gauge how all the stakeholders feel. We need to make a judgment not on a few months, but after ample time of a year or two to see how things are going and study all data prior to making any changes or decisions. I respectfully ask that we create a committee comprised of all stakeholders, the teachers, the secretaries, the custodians, the teaching assistants, aides, and monitors, and the administrators, as well as parents that make up all the aspects of our community before a final decision is made. When we have worked as a united entity over the past 29 years, Hendrick Hudson was an amazing school district and still is. Let's work together. Thank you.
Hello, please reconsider your ill-conceived decision to restructure our current grade banding model. The current model took 3 years to plan and implement, and is educationally, socially, and emotionally the best model for our children. It also saves us money. You never truly gave the Princeton plan a chance. The first Board of Ed goal for the 22-23 school year states that you will collect and present data by June 30th, 2023. You aren't even following your own goals and processes. 3 weeks ago, you hired an intern superintendent out of the blue. 1 week later, he made recommendations on new model options without key information and without truly knowing our district. With all due respect, what was he asked to do? What parameters did the board present to him? You then voted in a new pre-K program without knowing the ultimate structure of the elementary school. You were discussing these options without necessary relevant information such as socioeconomic breakdown and correct enrollment numbers. How is that an informed decision? And all without the input of your constituents, the public. At last week's meeting, you asked audience members to refrain from making comments until the agenda item section, and then you voted before even allowing people their say. That included the teachers who were here representing 190 tenured teachers. That's over 90% of our tenured teachers, silenced by your rush to judgment. You say transitions are an educational problem, yet you haven't shared any evidence or studies. Where are they? The details matter. And are transitions the only educational problem you're considering, or just the most convenient rationalization of your end goal? How will you ensure an equitable education? What's the impact of bias and inequity on a child's education? Why aren't you seeking and talking about those studies? What measures do you have in place to combat those concerns? Have you done an equity audit? Why not? You're ignoring the impact of stigma, bias, labels, inequity on children in your hastily conceived K-2 model. Your proposed divide, east-west of 9A, will exacerbate the have versus have-not mentality that already exists. Guess it's our version of the wrong side of the tracks? How will you ensure equitable services in these two divided schools? How will you do that without spending more money? What about special education children and services? You don't know the answers to many of these questions because you're rushing the process without research, without thoughtful consideration, without the public's or teachers' input. You voted in a completely new plan that leaves fundamental problems to fester in our district. And to top it all off, the fiscal irresponsibility that underlies all of these changes in the plan will likely cause large program and staff cuts at the secondary level. Don't tell me it's restructuring. We all know what restructuring means. Please do what's right and reconsider. There's still time to come to your senses. Leave the 23-24 year alone and assess with due diligence, with public input, with teachers' input, where we go and to find out where we should go from here. That is the way to heal the rift and steer us towards beating one hen hunt. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ann Wilkins Leach, and I want to begin by thanking the board. We know you're volunteers. We know you put in a tremendous amount of time, and this is time consuming, so thank you for that. However, first, I'm not tied to the Princeton plan or any other plan. I am, however, as a lifelong educator, sincerely tied to the critical importance of consistency and its link to exemplary education. For those whose platform is safety, I wholeheartedly concur. Children feel safe when they have consistency in their lives. Children feel trust when they have consistency in their lives. Children have less anxiety when they have consistency in their lives. If Plan B is truly a goal, the children of Hen HUD will have a different bus to ride, different children on the bus, a new bus route, a different school, different teachers, administrators, and staff, as well as different future friends to get to know. Many of the friends they've made in their formative years will be sent to different schools. Again. Last year's plan had its first forum just 4 months after it started, in December, 4 months after it started. This is not consistency at all. How does this quick and immediate change gain the trust of our young children? As an educator, administrator, superintendent, parent, grandparent, and friend, I live by a lifelong motto. It is never too late to say thank you, to apologize, to congratulate, or to change your mind. It is not too late for the board to say, we reread the comments. We slept on it. We re-reviewed the impact of another change again. Money doesn't drive everything. The future of our children does. It's not too late. Thank you.
The next speaker is Steve Rawlinson.
Good evening, everybody. Buchanan resident. I have a 6-year-old that's in kindergarten now, and I have a 15-month-old that'll be in the district prior to 45 days. Just want to voice, I'm an advocate and a product of grade banding model, and I had success with this, and the district was more spread out, and, busing was really not bus transportation was really not much of an issue or discussed about. The current model has shown that it saves costs, there's efficiencies for teachers, and it allows for more diverse school settings. Any sort of objection to this is that you don't agree to fiscal responsibility, improve diversity, and taking care of the teachers to our extent. It seems we don't want to be moving forward and holding status quo, even though our enrollment has dropped over 10% in the last 10 years. With this moving forward, our children would have already been stabilized with their respective friend groups and truly negating, true integration. If folks want to deny the divide, look back on the February 15th board meeting around the 37-minute mark, and there you'll find a longtime resident that speaks to this divide. My son, recently was sharing his level of excitement with me that he'd be, when he was in 2nd grade, he'd get to go to BV and then, 2 years later, go to Furnace Woods. That opportunity, unfortunately, it seems that opportunity is being taken away from him. And just a few other points I want to talk about as well, in terms of Princeton plan is something I think we do need to consider for the K235 is looking into expanding on a wing in one of the schools, whether it be BV or Furnace Woods. Someone mentioned last meeting about potential federal funding. If there's that opportunity, we need to do our diligence and make sure we make efforts towards that. And really, I brought this up to the board recently, but really, a model that I saw, a district around here that I saw that does K235 grade banding is Byram Hills, and I know Peekskill does as well, but their enrollment's 1,200 more, whereas Byram Hills is roughly within 50 kids of each other. So they're a top 5 school in the county, top 20 in the state. So any talk about loss of learning, we can kind of put that to bed. I mean, maybe some will, but to show that's a model. They're, K235, and there's, they're top 5 in the county and top 20 in the state. I mean, I think that's reflective of itself. And another point I want to make too is, from a budget process, if we're really going to go this route, we need to make sure there's equal spending opportunity based on a cost per student. So if a school has 300 kids, at $30,000 a student, that's $9 million for that building. And if it's 200 kids, that's $6 million. We gotta play fair here. Let's just please continue moving forward as is. Let's not make this political. Let's make this the best choice moving forward, at least for the next year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Scott Halpern.
I'm here to support Plan Z, even though you guys voted it off the table last week. I found it very offensive, the manner in which Plan C was removed from the the discussion without actually finishing the full budget assessment. And I know for certain that there are at least about 20, 30 other parents in this district that agree with me, because I've spoken with some of them. It's a little controversial when one of the board members, and I'm not going to name him, tries to eliminate public input from a meeting when such a crucial thing is going on and so much controversy is surrounding this Plan A, Plan B, Plan C issue. Right now, we're looking at Plan A and Plan B. That's Princeton Plan and Princeton Plan, okay? Plan C is not Princeton Plan, okay? So we're not really voting anymore, according to what you've done. We're not even considering a plan that doesn't involve the Princeton Plan. So you guys have eliminated the possibility of a fair assessment by not completing the budget. You owe that to the district to present the budget projection for Plan C in its completion. And I can almost guarantee you it's going to be cheaper because it was cheaper. If it was cheaper, then it probably will be cheaper in the future. So you guys are eliminating the possibility of discussing a plan that's probably cheaper and better before you even fully present it. Now, people might disagree with me, but, and I might even change my mind on it. The point is this: if you don't present the budget projection, then the entire community will be, well, not the entire community, but half the community will be against you because they'll feel like you cheated them out of what they deserve as members of this community. Okay, so Princeton Plan, I have a couple more questions here. The Princeton Plan seems to be an alternative phrase for grade banding, but I want to know, is there anything more to the Princeton Plan than just grade banding? Because if that's the case, then why don't we just call it grade banding? Is there another agenda going on? Is there a more complete agenda to the Princeton Plan that we don't know about? I can't download the Princeton Plan on the Hendrick Hudson website. So I don't really know, forgive my ignorance here, but when you're talking about a plan, I want to know what the plan is. I want to read the plan before we vote on it. And I also want to talk about the DEI agenda. Okay, not everybody agrees with diversity, equity, and inclusion. As much as that may offend some people with this fake religion that's like somehow, to be morally correct, we have to believe in diversity, equity, and inclusion. Some of us are just naturally, we don't discriminate against people, but we don't believe in the diversity, equity, and inclusion agenda because it's an incremental plan to impose certain morals and principles on the community that we do not agree with. Okay?
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Our next speaker is Bill Walsh.
Good evening. My name is William Walsh. I was a trustee here for 6 years, 2 terms. My wife was a trustee for 3 terms for 9 years on the board. She's running a little late. We have a letter to the board addressing this issue, signed by, at least as of last count, 11 former members of the board of trustees, including four past presidents. This board did a wise thing back at the start of the school year when it recognized the need for assessing the application of the Princeton Plan, collecting data, viewing its results, seeing its impact on the student body, and assessing student performance. It is now acting in disregard of the first policy that it set. That data is not in. It's not expected to be in until June. The superintendent informed you this at the January 4th meeting. Any action prior to the receipt of that data is premature. Further, this board is acting in disregard of its own policies with regard to communication. Policy 2700 states the board recognizes that the staff plays an important role in developing an effective educational program and strives to foster open communication between the staff and the board. This board has disregarded the survey of 30 teachers involved with the direct instruction of students within the elementary school. It has disregarded a request from the HHEA to be involved in the development of a new plan. It has failed to involve faculty in the discussions of this ad hoc construction that is only at best about 8 days old. This board is also acting in disregard of its own policies with regard to voting. Contrary to the acting superintendent's communication to the community this week, the vote taken last Wednesday on the 22nd had no binding impact. Policy 2310 requires the meetings to schedule what will be considered and addressed during the board meeting. The events on the 22nd were identified as discussions under the superintendent. There was no vote identified within it. Further, the adoption of policy 2352 imposes the Robert's Rules of Order, which requires resolutions to be in writing and voted upon accordingly. There was no written resolution. This board is also acting in contradiction of the laws of the state and federal government. The Princeton Plan benefits from having equity built into the system. Plan B, however, places 109 of the 164 Hispanic students into BV and 83 of 125 economically disadvantaged students into BV. Essentially, the plan places 2/3 of the students in these groups into Buchanan Ver Plan.
Sir, I'm sorry, we have to keep going.
You can give me another minute out of.
I can't just grant you a minute and not anybody else. It wouldn't be fair. I just asked the last gentleman. If you have the written,
He said.
oh, okay. So then we have your statement.
Has it erupted?
Yes, we got it.
Okay.
Thank you. Sorry.
First and foremost, thank you. I know it has not been easy, but I appreciate you all. I do not feel like the community is being ignored at this time. I actually feel the opposite. On April 7, 2021, we held a protest in front of the high school begging and pleading not to implement the Princeton Plan model. It was ultimately passed as a new policy, and many of us attended every meeting thereafter begging to reverse the decision. On June 9, 2021, a group of us sat with Mr. Hochreiter and Margaret proposed a different grade banding model to address our concerns. We were ignored and told no. March 29, 2002 was the last meeting we attended. We moved forward with a positive attitude for the sake of our children. It wasn't until December 1st, 2022 that we were given the opportunity to express our concerns at a public hearing. The biggest takeaways that night was that we want our children to come together before middle school, provide equal opportunities regardless of school, and we want to reduce transitions and bus times. 16 weeks later, the answer was Plan B. After 2 years, I finally feel like we have a BOE that is taking everyone into consideration, not just one side. I would have loved to go back to K through 5, but I'm very grateful for this opportunity. I understand that our children will once again be moving. I too am part of this disadvantage that Plan B brings. I have a kindergartner, a second grader, and a third grader, all of which will move to new buildings. It is not ideal, and I wish it was not the case, but in my heart, I truly know this is the best decision in the long run. My second grader will get a full 3 years at one school from 3 to 5. My little brother will also get a full 3 years when he enters FGL, which is the biggest school for our older kids that is the most centrally located. Bias. I want to state that none of my children at their ages have any preconceived notions of students from other schools. They don't differentiate kids from Montrose, Verplank, Buchanan, or Cortland. They have no biases, and it's a word that has been thrown around a lot lately. These children are young, innocent, and only care about who will play with them, not what their zip code is. By the time they start to understand this, they will all be together in third grade. In regards to K through 2 buildings, if you have volunteered at school store, you will know it sometimes feels like they are in 2 different buildings. The second grade has 8 sections. At lunch, 4 sections run to the playground and the other 4 stay inside to eat. And then they flip-flop. You will also know that we have to do 2 field trips and some divided events. We did 2 Ashokans and almost had to do 2 graduations. If we move forward, we need to ensure that next year, each kindergartner, no matter the school, makes a gingerbread house, or that each first grader watches Polar Express together. We will also maintain 1 PTA. I can tell you that the day after the FGL dance this Friday, I was already thinking about where to host next year's school dance for K2 from BV and Furnace Woods. We need to move forward working as one cohesive unit to plan the best possible outcome for our children. Compromise is a requirement in any successful partnership, relationship, or marriage. It is an agreement or a settlement of a dispute that is reached by one side making concessions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lauren Antonelli.
Good evening. Lauren Antonelli, a Buchanan resident for almost 29 years. 2 children have gone through the district, and I served in many PTA leadership positions, strategic planning in our district, and I very supportive of the district and care deeply for all children. While I respect all of you on this board, and I've worked closely with many of you, I was very disappointed with the Plan B decision. After seeing for so many years the divide, and I have lived the divide, and I will share that more. We were finally here, we were so close, and it really was about making it better. I know that things were not perfect, but it was about making it better. Why did I live through the divide? Well, I was the PTA president the year that BV was determined school need of improvement. Do you know how many people left us? I tried to get them to stay, but no, they left, okay? So the reality is, there is this difference. We also had the year that we had to draw the line differently. We had new developments. And while maybe the decision finally was made not to move them to BV, why did we have to have that discussion? It makes people feel less than. There were also switches. Special ed, how many times did we make that decision? Again, making families feel different, less than. Someone always feels unhappy, but the times have to change. We need to evolve from neighborhood school, because I think neighborhood school is biased in and of itself. We finally were in a community model. As I've listened to the lengthy discussions, one key element seems to be missing, and maybe Mr. Walsh just talked about it. Where's the data about the student performance? I have not heard anything, I have not seen anything, and it's not just the state scores. We discussed transition, but where is that data? Did we have an increase in number of children needing to visit the school psychologist? Did we have an increase in people missing school or unexpected absences because they couldn't get up and go to school? I think we need to get the data, and I applaud you all because this board has been really pushing to get data. I encourage you to keep asking for the data. If Plan B proceeds, what meeting are we going to learn about the cuts that are going to happen? Because there inevitably will be cuts. We know it. So what are those? And I know, Dr. Lauro, you've said that you're going to keep everything flat or no increase in taxpayers, but when do we know? Because that's the next group who's going to get up here and start giving you an earful. We need to give them a chance to understand that. If Plan B does continue, I expect that you will hold the school district accountable. Where's the cost, the savings, student performance measures to be reported every month, clearly articulated. I've heard it before. Hawkrider did not share that information. You guys have been asking it. I hear it every week. You're asking for that information, but where is it? So I think data needs to be provided, and whatever decision is made, I am a supporter of this district. I will find a way to make it work. But the reality is, I think it's a mistake. So please reconsider. Thank you.
Liliana Hudson.
Good evening. I would like to point out that this letter that I'm about to read was signed by 47 members plus of the community. So I'm just going to read it for the rest of us. Dear Board of Trustees, in light of the decision of the board to adopt Plan B and overturn the current implement plan, we are writing to ask the board to fully engage the stakeholders, who include our parents, teachers, children, and wider community, in this decision process, and pause this rushed decision. We're not in favor of one plan or the other. We're just asking for a voice. There was no due diligence that was exercised. This process is being rushed. The board did not provide a reasonable amount of time for stakeholders to be informed of this decision, and therefore it lacks transparency and accountability. The Princeton plan took years of public discussion. It was brought to the floor on March 20th. By March 23rd, there was a vote. This decision is premature, reckless, and irresponsible. The first goal set by this board, as stated on the website, says in part The benchmark data will be collected and presented by June 30th of 2023. We have not reached that date. Why are we making a decision now? Plan B increases our taxes more than any of the other models presented. In addition, that makes it fiscally irresponsible, and we need time to see the results before spending more money, and yet another model. Plan B also fails to meet DEI metrics, and this board needs to demonstrate how this model will address DEI benchmarks by providing KPIs and measurable deliverables. Plan B suggests also that there is more segregation among communities, and we've heard that also from our other speakers. It's a concern of ours, and the board needs to address it. The argument that our children will have the opportunity to integrate in grade 3 is also moot, because that will take much more time than something that can be done right now. The Plan B model also does not address equity and equality. I will not dive into the explanation offered here, but this letter is available for anyone who would like to read it. And as the board embarks on fleshing out the policies around Plan B, it will be wise to ensure that SMART goals are adopted to ensure that stakeholders' questions and concerns are addressed. Otherwise, a failure to provide metrics and a clear definition of success will undermine public buy-in, as we see demonstrated here right now. And lastly, I will say that the rationale by the board for the adoption of a new education model has not been clearly communicated. Our community feels isolated, uninformed, and voiceless in this process, and we therefore ask the board to engage with the community by addressing the above concerns before voting forward on the policies around Plan B. Thank you to the board and its members for its dedication to our children and the community. We acknowledge this is not an easy process, but we are asking to be partners in this process. We are stronger when we work together. Please pause the process and work with us. Thank you.
Christine Teagan.
Good evening. This first part is for the whole community, especially the people on Facebook who have forced me to deactivate my account. I would like to define equity from the National Association of Colleges and Employers. Whereas equality means providing the same to all, equity means recognizing that we do not all start from the same place, and we must acknowledge and make adjustments to imbalances. The process is ongoing, requiring us to identify and overcome intentional and unintentional barriers arising from bias or systemic structures. I would like to use the analogy of pie. If I make a pie and feed 8 people equally, I am dividing that pie so that each person gets the exact same sized slice. Now let's say one of the people at my party have already eaten their own pie and they're not hungry. They don't need that pie. One person has not eaten anything since yesterday. That person might want more pie to hold them over until their next meal. And still one more person has type 2 diabetes. Can they have the pie? How big should their pie be so that I don't send them into diabetic shock? The same concept applies to what equity means in a school. Equally distributing funds and personnel does not guarantee that children are being given equal opportunities. Let me provide one very real example. You have yet to translate a single document or meeting in Spanish or any of the other languages that our families speak in this district. Therefore, although these meetings are technically open to the public, they are not accessible to a large portion of our community. How many parents literally cannot be included in this extremely important decision that will impact their children? Quite frankly, it should be illegal. Even the email sent to tell us about tonight's meeting was not translated. You cannot claim to be representatives of the public when you don't provide an opportunity for all stakeholders to understand the issues at hand and respond accordingly. You are elected representatives who were voted to be our voice, yet you act as an oligarchy making decisions based on a few of the loudest folks in our space. And there's more nuance to that conversation that people need to be trained in. Yet we are back in 1960, drawing up lines in our district and acting like we don't have the wide world of the internet to help us understand the issues here. And since you like to speak in numbers and ignore our voices, I'll spend my last 25 seconds on some numbers. The cost of the plan that you presented and voted on last week is going to set us back hundreds of thousands of dollars that you know of. You have incorporated that into a larger budget 0 times. 180 tenured teachers signed a letter, one of the most important voices in our entire community, and you continue to ignore them. How do you justify that? 2 of my children will have to change buildings. $1 million was spent on some mystery settlement we would like to know about. I have more. Thanks very much.
Hello. Yesterday, my third grade son got to go to a birthday party 0.7 miles from my house. It was less than a 3-minute drive. Funny, we never got to see each other before as they were zoned Furnace Woods and we were BV. And next year in our new plan, they will be in BV and we will be in Furnace Woods. So once again, we will be separated. And our kindergartners that we both have will be apart for the next 2 years. Is that what we want? Neighbors and kids to be divided? They live 3 minutes from my house. And this is all data-driven supposedly, but the taxpayers have not seen any data yet. We are living this. My oldest 2 children have asked me, I try to keep this out of my home. I am here, I don't bring this home. And the next day after a meeting, my kids asked me, Mommy, what school am I going to next year? And I didn't know what to tell them. They asked me, who is going to be my principal next year? And I didn't know what to tell them. And as a parent, I always want to have answers for my children. And I've been here every meeting and I still don't know what to tell them. The motto at my job is to be valued, heard, and understood. And yes, I am a teacher. We do not feel valued, heard, or understood. And I'm going to skip so I can make sure I talk about our teachers. These teachers have been here and they don't feel valued, heard, and understood. On Friday, I had the luxury of going to the FGL dance, and there were some teachers there. That's voluntary. They don't have to be there. And if they are not valued, heard, and understood, they will not do the extras for our kids. And it was great because they were interacting with all the kids, and they made it a really enjoyable experience. Please listen to the teachers, the ones who are here with our kids every single day. Yesterday was a gorgeous day. I walked around my neighborhood on Teresa Lane. I'm not sure if you know, but I am the only family member there right now that has young kids in elementary schools. Do you know not a single one of my neighbors knows anything that's happening right now at these board meetings or about their tax dollars if it was not for me? Why is it my job to do your job? You're supposed to be reaching the community members, not me. There's no emails going out. There's no letters being mailed to their homes. There's no communication. There's nothing on the news. There's nothing. And you want to talk about rushing and that you don't like to be blindsided? I wasn't planning on being away from my children again for another night. And yet here I am, Friday, stalking the board page so I can see if there was a meeting for Wednesday, when lo and behold, at about 4:45, I was surprised. No, there's not a meeting Wednesday. There's a meeting Monday at 6 p.m. I had to make sure that I could be here for Monday at 6 p.m. Not everybody knows to stalk the board pages like I do. Why are we not reaching the community? Why are we not listening to these teachers? Please listen to the teachers. Thank you.
Hello, good evening, board members. My name is Marion Walsh. I served on the board for 9 years, from 2006 until 2016, 2007 to 2016. I was board president for 2 years. In the past day, I have discussed this plan after watching your meetings in the past 3 weeks with over 10 past board presidents who have very diverse experience going back 20 years. We have not seen a situation like this despite varying crises in the district. And for this board to ignore the well-researched 81-page document that lays out well-reasoned decisions why the Princeton plan works is nothing short of irresponsible. I just want to point out the impact on especially the most vulnerable students here. When you draw, I looked at the reports that you've done in crayon and in highlights, and you're talking about just moving people around. It's easy. It's not easy for students with disabilities. You're talking about not any input from NHUD SEPTA. Annual review season on IEPs is well underway, and this late plan minimally will make it difficult to implement these IEPs that are already finalized. And the rush plan undoubtedly would lead to more challenges in meeting federal state mandates for our most vulnerable students, already compounded by COVID. And the same lack of analysis applies for students who are learning the English language. Moreover, you've drawn a new line in the district that is starkly along socioeconomic lines across ethnic origin lines. You are subjecting this district to liability based on Civil Rights Act. Just add litigation costs to your 100% to your analysis if you adopt Plan B. Moreover, even more fundamentally, this process is fundamentally flawed. I sat on the board for 9 years. We would have never had a meeting like the meeting on March 22nd. Perhaps because we have new leadership, and I always respect board members for volunteering, but it was nothing short of embarrassing. You got me out of here. I hadn't been in this district and since my son graduated in 2015, and it's nothing short of appalling. I'm going to give out my letter. I give it to the board. I imagine you'll have to.
You should go to the okay. Yeah, we don't want to go for it.
Good evening. I actually don't have anything planned in terms of like a written script or anything, but I decided to show up tonight just to say that, you know, when the Princeton plan came into effect, I was really upset, really concerned about just the kids having to move schools every 2 years and what I would have to do next year with my son in Furnace Woods and Sophia somewhere else. Just literally didn't even understand how I was going to do it for next year. And so personally, I'm really relieved to find that this solution has come to be. When I first heard about it like a week ago, I was like, wait, what? Like, I can't believe this. Would I have loved to just go back to how things were? Yes, the K-5 model would have been amazing. So it was a little bit disappointing to hear that that was kind of off the table. But in terms of compromise, nobody's ever going to be 100% pleased. There's always going to be an issue. And so one of the things that I'm just so grateful of is that there was a middle ground here. And so looking at it from that perspective as a parent, knowing that now with my business, I don't have to be going on different routes in the morning, going down the hill, leaving my daughter up at the house alone, then coming back. Furnace Woods is 2 minutes from my house. So is it annoying that and frustrating that they will be all the way over here? Yes. But at the same time, I'm relieved to know that my kids are going to be in the same school next year. And so I thank you for finding a medium ground. And unfortunately, we're not going to be able to always please everybody. So thanks for doing what you do.
Thank you.
Good evening. One of the most interesting friendships in recent history was that of the two late Supreme Court Justices Antonin Scalia and the notorious RBG, Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Polar opposites on almost every single topic, they still managed to maintain a very close friendship, and they enjoyed spending time together outside of the court. They shared a mutual respect for the other person and shined as an example of putting aside ideological differences when the time called for it.
There are dozens of us on opposing sides in the Princeton Plan debate. I, like many others, am firmly pro-Princeton Plan, the model that we have right now. I'm also firmly anti-rushing into a new model as quickly as we now seem to be doing. I've shared my thoughts in depth with each of the trustees and be happy to share them with others, but I'm not going to do that here tonight because it would take a lot longer than I have on the clock. Instead, the message that I would like to convey is that we need to take a page out of the books of our Supreme Court leaders and follow their example. I think we all understand that there will never be a full consensus in this community on whether Plan A, B, or C is the best for us. I am fully aware of how difficult this decision is for the trustees to make. I'm also aware that they know how difficult it is for us to be kept on the sidelines, out of the loop, and in the dark. We have to separate our feelings about each other as individuals from those about the roles that we take and the positions we support. On a personal note, I had a conversation earlier today with another community member, another parent of younger children than mine. We agree on a lot of things politically. We do not agree on the Princeton Plan, but we do agree that we have to come back together because otherwise any plan is going to be a disaster for us. While we may remain divided about what model is adopted or the timeline of the decision or its implementation, we need to begin to heal, and that requires respect, both for the board and by the board for the residents. We all should refrain from name-calling and denigration of others. We residents need to understand that there is certain information we know you cannot share with us, but we also deserve to know as much as possible. Almost all of you ran on platforms of open communication and transparency, yet this process has been shrouded in secrecy, and now that some things are finally out in the open, they are happening at ludicrous speed. This community deserves to know what is going on, why the decision is being pushed forward now without further and more detailed examination of all options and the related data. To the extent legally permissible, I respectfully ask that the board share with us this information. It will go a long way towards starting us on a road to healing, with support hopefully growing from both sides in this divide. And it would be a perfect example of leadership that we can follow. Thank you.
Okay, so now we're moving on to our consent agenda. Can I have anything to pull? I know, Ally, you.
Yeah, I was gonna pull fiscal 3.4, the bus proposition.
Do you have clarity to pull? Just so that people at home can see what we're talking about. Go ahead.
I think we vote on the rest of it first. Carmen, do we vote on the rest of the consent agenda first and then what I pulled?
Yes. Yeah. Is that the only thing to pull? Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Can I have a second? All in favor? Aye. Okay, go ahead, Ally.
So I wanted to pull the bus proposition. I've heard from some community members that they were kind of confused how we got to this. So it's not really a question, just more for clarity for the community. Greg, can you scroll down? Basically, we as a board, I don't want to, if I'm misspeaking, let me know, guys, came to a consensus that putting all 4 buses together on one proposition was basically the way to move forward because we need all 4 buses under either Plan A or Plan B. Do I have that understanding correctly? Okay. I just wanted to articulate that for the community before we voted on it.
Yeah, gotcha.
I think you got it right.
Okay.
I think so.
Okay.
No?
Okay. Can I have a motion to approve fiscal 3.4?
So moved.
Can I have a second? All in favor? Okay. Okay, we have no presentations this evening and no superintendent's report. We have the policy first reading. I'm going to ask that Stephanie Hickey read it for us. What we're doing is reading a revision to the school attendance areas policy 5110. We are going to skip paragraphs 1 through 10 and begin where the revision starts on paragraph 11. We will read through it once this evening. Okay. What's your mic? You read it over through? No. You read it over before you leave. That we can read and revise. Oh, sorry. Okay.
For the 2023-24 school year and each school year thereafter, the elementary schools within the Hendrick Hudson Central School District shall be organized such that Buchanan Verplank Elementary School and Furnace Woods Elementary School will be dedicated to grades kindergarten to second grade, and Frank G. Lindsay Elementary School will be dedicated to third through fifth grade. Each student in grades kindergarten through fifth grade in the Hendrick-Hudson Central School District is required to attend the elementary school that serves the student's grade level and resides in the areas prescribed below. Students in the kindergarten through second grade residing west of Route 9 and in the area in and about Montrose Station Road east of Route 9, including but not limited to Oak Road, College Hill, Travis Lane, and in and about Westminster Drive and Southsea Drive, shall attend the Buchanan Verplank Elementary School. Students in kindergarten through second grade residing east of Route 9, except as provided in the paragraph above, and in grades kindergarten through second grade, shall attend Furnace Woods School. The board reserves the right to alter these attendance zones in the future based on enrollment.
Are there any board comments or questions in regards to the policy or anything that you'd like to discuss?
The only thing that I'm looking at, and it may have been an oversight in conversation when we were doing this, and trying to keep our neighborhoods together. It doesn't make any sense. There's part of this map that doesn't make any sense to me, and it's partially my fault, but this area here, Antonio, Allen, those.
Do you have it, Frank?
I have it in front of me.
I know, I'm just wondering if the rest of us.
Okay. This part, something, I think this.
Here, thanks. Why don't, yeah, I can.
I have.
There's no one. Not one, sure. I didn't have a copy of that. I'll use. Okay, sorry, go ahead, Erica.
I'm questioning that area based on the proximity to
Which area?
Sassy, Allen Drive, Antonio, Teresa, yes. I'm questioning that area based on the proximity to Mandy Court and Sassy Drive. Because if your Montrose Station Road is all BV, and then all of this is BV, then that should technically, I think, be BV. And we did not run the numbers that way.
You're talking about Sassy?
It's the, yeah, because you have it's a neighborhood. All those roads connect.
Yeah, I'm gonna show you.
They're going to be, they're allocated to be there.
No, they're not.
So these are going to Furnace Woods. The question is, should they be going to BB, because that's where Devonshire is.
So what? I don't know. I mean, I don't know the answers. I don't know the answer because everything we've done has been with them.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah. I think so.
1 minute, just give me 1 minute.
Okay.
Because I have the breakout in front of me.
Yeah.
Just give me 1 second.
Well, I don't even know that we have to solve that right this minute. We can look into that because either way, it needs to be.
We would be changing the policy.
Correct, right. And it's not being adopted, so you can change any of the language.
For the next.
Yeah, absolutely. So we can look into that. Yeah.
Do you have the information, Lisa?
Can I have that back though?
Yes.
I don't want to lose that. Okay, my center's active.
According, you good?
According to what I have from Benita, someone that lives on 9 Sassy Drive next year would go to, it appears to be BB.
Yes, Sassy is BB because Sassy was Frank G before.
Right.
But that area that literally is connected to that neighborhood should be with its neighbors.
What's another road?
Pamela.
Correct, that's Furnace Woods on this.
So I think we did it by family. We did it by bus route.
So we'll look into it. Okay, anybody have any other comments? Yeah? Lori? Corey's got his hand up.
Yeah, I'm just hoping that we can get the updated financial analysis when the map is finally figured out. And also demographic analysis. So the analysis that we got last time had some errors in them. I'd like to have them updated with the accurate numbers and then also with these numbers, once it's done before we vote on any kind of policy change.
You're saying, I'm just saying, is that,
Some kids were going to BB, and some were going to Furnace Woods, so if they changed the line.
right,
I'm sorry, Greg. Some people were going to BB and some were going to Furnace Woods, so if we change the lines, that may change class sizes, that may change a few different things.
Right, demographics, and also the costs that we had last time were not fully updated. Because there were changes that Jeremy had identified, that I had identified, things that were not included that should have been included. And now that we have better demographics, we can get a better analysis for equity reasons. What would we need to put in place from a special education standpoint? Do we need more staff at one school over another school? So I'd like to have that updated analysis.
we did address that in our, when we were doing the original, in terms of the numbers of special ed. I don't know if a handful of students will make a big change.
Okay, that's fine if that's the case, but I would
We'll make
just
sure,
like,
yeah.
yeah,
Exactly.
I'd like to make sure that we have the updated information.
I just have a question about what happens next, for the sake of clarity for the community that's here listening or listening in at home. What happens next? We've done a first reading of this policy. Erica and Corey are asking us to look into and articulate some things. What happens next?
We would be able to bring, is it mine?
Yeah.
We would be able to bring the updated data to the next meeting, and then with that provided to you, it's up to you at that point whether to vote yes or no.
So we would have a final vote at
Yes.
the next meeting, which is, help me out, somebody.
After
April 12th.
April
Thank
12th.
you. Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. When is the meeting vote?
The next meeting, which is April
Oh,
12th.
that's the budget.
Yeah.
April 12th. Okay.
Okay, does anybody else have any comments or new business? Okay, can I have a motion to close the meeting? Can I have a second? All in favor?